All right. So today we are going to be tackling something that I think a lot of our listeners struggle with, and that's time management. And specifically, you sent over a book that I thought was so interesting called Your Time.
Yes.
And it kind of like flips the script on how we think about time management. So I thought this would be a really fun deep dive.
Yeah.
So, we all feel like we're constantly chasing the clock, just trying to get everything done, in a day, in a week.
Right.
But Your Time is actually arguing that might be the opposite of what we should be doing.
The book argues that our obsession with efficiency can actually be counterproductive.
Yeah, that's what I thought was so interesting. So it's like, we think, like if I just become really efficient, then I can get everything done.
Right.
But it's like almost like that's a trap in a way.
It is.
So how is that?
Have you ever cleared your inbox, feeling really productive?
Oh, yeah.
And then realized that you haven't touched, these larger, more important tasks?
Oh, my gosh. Yes, all the time.
So the book calls this the tunnel effect, where we get so fixated on checking things off the list that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
So like it's almost like it's tricking you into thinking that you're being productive when really you're just like avoiding the big stuff.
Exactly.
Ugh. I hate that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally me like cleaning my whole apartment instead of, studying for an exam. So what's the book saying, is wrong with these like traditional time management things like to-do lists and, that kind of stuff?
Well, it suggests that these techniques often address the symptoms of poor time management,
Right.
like feeling overwhelmed or disorganized,
Right.
rather than the root cause.
Okay, so then what is the root cause?
Well, Your Time proposes that the root cause lies in the way our brains perceive and process time.
Okay.
It delves into the science of time perception and how it plays a crucial role in our ability to manage time effectively.
So it's kind of like our perception of time is like the problem.
It's like our perception of time is not this objective reality that we think it is. It's a subjective experience.
Are you saying that time isn't real?
No.
Okay.
Time definitely exists.
Okay.
But the way we experience it is shaped by our brains and influenced by a whole bunch of factors like our emotions, our memories, and our expectations.
That's so wild.
Like, think of it this way. Imagine you're looking at a photograph. You see this frozen moment in time.
Right.
But your brain automatically fills in the gaps, creating a narrative of what happened before and after that snapshot was taken.
So, like, it's almost like our brains are, like, telling themselves stories about time.
Yes.
Based on our memories and our predictions about the future.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Our brains are constantly constructing these narratives about time.
Oh, that's wild.
And these narratives can often be riddled with biases that can lead us to mismanage our time.
So what kind of biases are we talking about here?
Well, the book identifies 4 specific prediction biases that can impact how we plan and prioritize our time.
Okay, let's hear it. What's the first one?
Okay, so imagine you're planning your week and you tell yourself, oh, that report will only take me a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But then you end up, pulling an all-nighter to finish it.
Yes.
This is what Your Time calls low prediction reality.
Okay.
It's basically when we underestimate the time and effort it takes to complete tasks.
Oh, I do that all the time.
We often feel disconnected from our future selves.
Yeah.
And we don't fully grasp the reality of what it's going to take to achieve those future goals.
Yeah, it's so easy to be like, oh, yeah, I could just like get that done, on Tuesday afternoon.
Yes,
and then Tuesday afternoon comes around and you're like, oh, my God, I have like 10 other things to do.
Excellent.
So what's the next bias?
Okay, so now picture this of a friend who's always saying, I can't go out tonight. I have to work on my 5-year plan.
Oh, my God. I know so many people like that.
That's high prediction reality in action. These individuals are super focused on their future selves, and they're constantly sacrificing present enjoyment for the sake of future gains.
Oh, okay. So it's like the opposite of the last one. Instead of being like, oh, it'll be fine. It's like, I have to do this now so that I can get to this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
So while it's good to have goals and aspirations, Your Time warns that excessive high prediction reality can lead to burnout and a constant feeling of delayed gratification.
It's like they're never living in the moment.
Right. They're always living for the future.
That's so sad.
It is.
Okay, so we've got these 2 biases. They seem kind of like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. What are the other 2? Are they like that too?
Well, the other 2 shift the focus from the intensity of our predictions to the quantity.
Okay.
So imagine someone with 1 million tabs open in their brain.
Oh my God, that's me.
Constantly juggling to-dos and future events. That's high prediction quantity.
Oh my God, that's so me. I feel so seen right now.
Yeah. It's pretty common, especially, with our fast-paced world.
Yeah. I mean, like, things are just coming at you from every direction. Okay, so what's the last one? Low prediction quantity.
Right. So this is the opposite.
Okay.
These folks have very few future events in mind, and it can lead to a lack of motivation and a sense of aimlessness.
So it's not even procrastination. It's they just don't have anything they're working towards.
It's like they're lacking direction.
So that's like the friend who's always like, I don't know what to do with my life.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. I know a few people like that too.
Right.
So that's fascinating because like these hidden biases are like secretly controlling our lives.
They are shaping our decisions without us even realizing it.
So does the book tell us what to do about this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Your Time provides a whole toolkit of techniques that are designed to help us manage these biases.
Okay, well, I think we need to save that for the next part because that's a whole other can of worms.
Definitely.
So
stay tuned.
We'll dive into the practical strategy
we will.
in the next segment.
Okay, see ya then. All right, so we're back and ready to tackle these solutions that the book offers for, dealing with these biases. So let's start with those people who struggle with low production reality. Those are the folks who are constantly underestimating how long things will take.
Right.
So what are some of the things that Your Time recommends for those people?
Well, one of the simplest yet surprisingly effective strategies is time boxing.
Time boxing?
Yes.
I feel like that's kind of a buzzword these days. Everyone's like, oh, just time box it. But what does it actually mean in a practical sense?
So it's more than just scheduling.
Okay.
It's about allocating a specific block of time for a task.
Okay.
And really committing to working on it solely during that period.
Okay.
So it's like you're drawing a boundary around that time.
So instead of just writing finish report on my to-do list.
I would actually block out okay, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Right.
I'm only going to work on that.
Exactly. Yeah. That pre-commitment helps, really solidify that time for that task.
So it's it makes it feel more real because it's actually on your calendar. Okay? I like that.
Your Time also suggests breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Okay.
Especially for those who feel overwhelmed by huge projects.
Right. So instead of thinking about writing a 20-page report, it's okay, I'm going to do the research today, and then I'm going to do the outline tomorrow, and then, so on and so forth.
Exactly. That's what they call task decomposition.
Okay.
It makes the process feel less daunting and allows you to celebrate small wins along the way.
I love that. Okay, what about something a little bit more unconventional?
Okay.
Is there anything in the book that's kind of out there?
This might sound a bit woo-woo,
okay.
But they recommend a visualization exercise. So the idea is to vividly imagine yourself completing the task before the deadline.
Okay.
Engaging all of your senses in the process.
Interesting.
So you're creating a mental movie of yourself succeeding.
So instead of just picturing oh yeah, the report's done.
Right.
It's I'm picturing I'm hitting the submit button. I'm feeling the relief wash over me.
Exactly.
I'm hearing the keys clicking as I'm typing.
Exactly.
Really getting into it.
The more vividly you can experience it in your mind, the more real it becomes.
Okay.
And the more likely you are to actually follow through.
I like that. Okay, so that's for the, low prediction folks.
Right.
What about the people who are on the other end of the spectrum?
Okay.
So the ones who are so focused on the future that they're
right.
sacrificing all the present enjoyment.
High prediction reality.
Yeah. What about them? What does the book say?
One of the best techniques is pre-commitment.
Okay.
And in this case, it's pre-committing to enjoyment. So it's about scheduling pleasurable activities in advance.
So actually putting it on my calendar, going to the movies with friends and being no, I'm not going to reschedule that.
Exactly.
Even if work comes up.
Right. It's recognizing that your present well-being is just as important as those future goals.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's you're not going to get to those future goals if you're burnt out and miserable in the present.
It's about finding that balance.
Okay. So what about the folks who have a million tabs open in their brain?
High prediction quantity.
Yeah. Me. Yeah. How can those people declutter their mental space and prioritize more effectively?
The book introduces the SSC scoring method. It's a system for evaluating tasks
Okay.
based on social value, urgency, and personal value.
Okay, so it's kind of like a weighted system where you're like, okay, is this actually important to me?
Right, you're giving each of those a score.
Okay, and then
And then you can prioritize based on, the tasks that have the highest scores.
Okay, so it's like it's giving you a more objective way to be like, okay, this is actually important. This is not important.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And then last but not least, what about those low prediction quantity folks?
Right.
So the ones who are kind of like, just floating along and like...
Lacking direction.
Yeah, lacking direction. What can they do?
Well, they suggest a technique called goal setting with a twist.
Okay.
So it starts with identifying a long-term goal that truly excites you, something that makes you jump out of bed in the morning.
Okay.
But then instead of just leaving it as this vague aspiration, you work backwards and create a timeline with specific milestones.
So it's like making it more tangible.
Exactly.
So it's not just like, I want to travel the world someday.
Right.
It's like, okay, I want to go to, Paris in 2 years, and then I want to go to, Japan in 5 years.
Exactly. And you break it down into these smaller steps.
Okay. I like that. So I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
In terms of like, how to deal with these prediction biases.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned earlier these retrospection biases.
Yes.
So how do those play into all of this?
Well, that's where we're headed next.
Okay.
Because it turns out that how we remember the past is just as important as how we predict the future when it comes to time management.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And your time has some fascinating insights on that as well.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yes.
So let's take a quick break and we'll dive into that.
Sounds good.
So we talked about how our predictions about the future can like totally mess with our perception of time.
Right.
But now I want to get into those like retrospection biases that you mentioned. How can our memories like mess with our time management? Like, I don't even understand how that works.
It's so interesting how our brains play tricks on us, even when it comes to remembering the past. So your time suggests that these retrospection biases can be just as sneaky as those prediction biases, influencing our time management without us realizing it.
Okay, so tell me more, like what kind of memory mischief are we talking about?
One of the biggest things is something called retrospection accuracy.
Okay.
Which is basically how accurately we remember past events.
Okay.
So things like, how long a project actually took.
Right.
How difficult it really was and how we felt during the process. Turns out most of us aren't as accurate as we think we are.
So not only am I bad at predicting the future, I'm also bad at remembering the past.
Well, it's not about being bad at it.
Okay.
It's more about understanding that our memories aren't these like perfect recordings of reality. They're reconstructions. And those reconstructions are often influenced by, our current emotions, our beliefs, and even our desires.
So like if I'm feeling super stressed about an upcoming deadline, I might remember like past projects as being way easier than they actually were. And then like set myself up to like totally underestimate how long it's going to take me to do this new thing.
Exactly. Or on the flip side, if you're feeling really confident right now, you might remember past challenges as being less daunting, leading you to overcommit to new projects.
Oh, so it can go both ways.
I can.
Okay, so retrospection accuracy is kind of about like, how our memories might be like factually inaccurate.
Right.
What are some other types of like retrospection bias that we should be aware of?
Another one is retrospection valence, which is basically the emotional tone of our memories. So we tend to remember things as being either more positive or more negative than they actually were.
Oh, so it's like, remembering that all-nighter I pulled to finish that presentation as like this heroic feat, when really I was just like, chugging coffee and like freaking out.
Exactly. Or the opposite, like remembering like a small setback as this huge failure, even though it didn't really have a big impact on the project.
Right. Okay. So it's like our rose-colored glasses or like, maybe our doom and gloom glasses can really distort how we view the past. So I'm guessing the book doesn't just like point these out and then just leave us hanging.
No.
There's got to be some solutions, right? Like what can we do to like, combat these memory gremlins?
So one of the most effective tools is time journaling.
Time journaling? What's that, like a diary for my schedule or something?
It's more about tracking your actual time usage.
That's okay.
So like the nitty-gritty details of what you're doing throughout the day and how long it actually takes you.
So like timing how long it takes me to write a blog post.
Yeah.
Or like, how much time I spend in meetings every week.
Right.
Even like when I'm just scrolling on social media, like I got to write that down.
Exactly. It's about being really honest with yourself. No rounding up or down. No sugarcoating those unproductive moments.
Yeah.
So you're getting this clear, objective picture of how you're actually spending your time.
Okay. And then once you have all this data, then...
Then you can analyze it and start to look for patterns and insights.
Oh, okay. So it's like we're turning our brains into these like time-tracking laboratories.
Exactly.
What kind of patterns should we be looking for?
Well, are you consistently underestimating certain types of tasks? Are there certain times a day when you're most productive?
Oh.
What activities leave you feeling energized and focused?
Right.
Versus which ones drain your energy?
Okay. Yeah. I can see how that would be really helpful. Okay. So we've got time journaling. What else does the book recommend for dealing with these retrospection biases?
Another great technique is what they call the highlight reel technique.
Okay.
Which involves shifting your focus to your successes, both big and small.
Okay.
So you're creating this mental highlight reel of your accomplishments.
So like at the end of the day, I should like write down all the things that I did, even if they seem small.
Exactly. It could be like you finished that report or you sent that important email. Even just clearing your inbox, it's about training your brain to focus on the positive.
So it's like, instead of beating ourselves up for the things that we didn't do,
right.
It's like giving ourselves a pat on the back for the things that we did do.
Exactly.
Okay, I love that.
And speaking of setbacks, your time also emphasizes the importance of reframing failures as opportunities for growth and learning.
Okay.
So it's about shifting from that, I messed up mentality to what can I learn from this perspective?
So it's like, okay, I made a mistake, but like, what can I learn from it so that I don't make that mistake again?
Exactly. It's about adopting that growth mindset.
Okay. I like that. So I feel like this has been like a really eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
Your time has really challenged my assumptions about time management. It's not about, finding some magical formula or trying to like cram more into my schedule. It's about understanding how my brain works and how it's like shaping my experience of time.
I think that's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Time management is this ongoing journey, self-discovery, and the more we understand how our brains work, the more effectively we can manage our time.
Absolutely. Well said. On that note, we will leave you all to continue your own like time-bending adventures. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.